Cuckoo's Egg by C.J. Cherryh. The first C.J. Cherryh I've read. I finished this very recently, and unlike most of the reviews I've been doing lately, I wanted to just get this video out, or at least recorded, with more, you know, with thoughts that have just happened because I just read it. Um, this book is about as you can see on the cover, a human or human adjacent boy named Thorn, who is raised by a called what are called shonunin. Um, right here on the cover, you can see this is a shonunin. Um, like I would a human with a bunch of hair, with some different customs. Think of it that way. I don't want to. I don't want to just completely like dilute what was going on, but just think of it that way if you're, unsure how to view the characters. Thorn is being raised by Dune, Duun is how you spell it, and he's this very well regarded, well respected shonunin of a like clan or subsect of this culture called Hatani. A lot of the book really it doesn't hold your hand, and then it makes you just kind of like you have to figure out what's going on. Cherryh does a great job in kind of throwing you into this world, giving you a little bit of training wheels at the beginning, but just saying, here you go, here's what's going on, get with the program. And a lot of this book is we see Thorn growing up, and not all the way up. He's still a young boy, like age 16 for a lot of the book, 15, 16, I think. And he's learning, he's growing in this culture, completely alien from from humans. Um, but what's interesting, I think, is, and it's a great thing that Cherryh does, is she positions him in a way where he knows he's different, but he doesn't know why, and we don't find out until the absolute very end. Not to spoil when you learn that information, but it is withheld from us for a long time. At least his true origins are kind of sprinkled throughout, maybe a little bit. We just know that he's a human in this different world. And I think that gives this really awesome relationship between Dune and Thorn, where you have this sort of fatherly figure and this frustrated young man who is trying to find his place in a world that he doesn't really fit into, but he does his best. And he's raised by this very, like I said, well regarded, well respected, well trained individual in Dune. So he himself, Thorn, becomes very well trained. And um, without spoiling a lot of the ending yet, I'll go on to talk about some more specific stuffs. Um, without spoiling anything, I think the parts that moved me the most were the parts that dealt with Dune and Thorn as far as like a father figure to his son. Those really resonated with me because I'm a father, and because I think it explores a different angle of the father and son relationship because Thorn is not his son. I think Egg, in a unique way, is a really good way to like signify what's going on here, because you know I don't know if this is an actual phenomenon in the animal kingdom, but are there any animals that sit on other animals' eggs to keep them warm before they hatch? Because that's kind of what we have here in a way, where Dune is raising Thorn as his own, but like it's not his child. Um, at least we don't think it is, and we're like, why would you be doing this? And I think we're in the dark as readers for a lot of the book as to why Dune would be doing this. Again, it's sprinkled throughout a little bit that some of it might be political, it might be for Thorn's own good, but we don't know why. And I while I wasn't like just overwhelmed with how good CJ Cherryh was, I enjoyed this book a lot, and I liked how fast and snappy and how uniquely written it was at times, because there's a lot of internal dialogue we get from Thorn with the use of parentheses, and that I think gives this very free flow vibe of how we experience Thorn as the main character, because it'll just jump in and out of moments that he's experiencing, and we as the reader can just really get into his mind. I know plenty of other books do this, but I thought that Cherry did it really well, because it's not always formatted grammatically correct or done in a way that makes a ton of like sense, as far as like it'll have like a line of a thought Thorn is having in parentheses. It'll jump down and have a full text block. Same thing. Rather than putting it all in one, she has a line break for a reason. And I think she's very intentional. She was very intentional in writing this. Um, and I found that of all the CJ Cherry I've come across, um, in thrift stores and at the bookshops locally and whatnot, I always see this kind of recurring, um, whether I think it's called Chanur or Chanur. Uh, it's either a character or a series or something. I've never delved deep into exactly what that is, but it's by Cherry. It's these. She's really likes these furry humanoid creatures, and they could be the same thing as these shonunin, but uh, I was I'm not a very like I'm not interested in that kind of stuff usually, with which I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but the vibe of like humans that are adjacent to animals, the anamorph, is that anamorph? Anyway, that kind of thing it's always been kind of odd to me. I don't want to say furries, because that's not what we're talking about here, but that's like a little bit of the thing that it makes me think of. And so for whatever reason, Cherry has always kind of sat on my shelf, and it's just been like, yeah, I found this for a buck or two at a Goodwill, I think, or thrift store, and it sat there, and I thought that's a cool cover, and that's where it was. And I want to give a shout out to Jack at Sci-Fi Finds. He has read this and reviewed it. I'll link his video down below, so you can also check out what his thoughts were about it. But when he reviewed it, I realized I had the same book on my shelf, and I thought I really should read that, just because it's something that somebody who in this space had just reviewed, and it's fresh, and it's not a long book. It's less than 200 pages, and I wanted to. I almost said a joke with Cherry, and I'm not going to say it. You can infer it. I don't want to. That's just weird. Apologies for that. Um, I wanted to start reading my first Cherry. There you go. And so I read this with positive feelings towards just wanting to experience her writing, to see. I have several other books by her. Down Below Station, I know, is one that kind of keeps calling at me from the bookshelf, that I will probably read at some point. And yeah, I liked her writing, and I thought she was really well written. I would recommend finding her books and reading them. I think I would give this probably a solid 7 out of 10. Uh, I keep mixing up what my ranking system is. I've done like out of 5, and now I'm doing out of 10, but whatever. That's a 3.5 if I do math right, out of 5, if you want to go by the 5 scale. Um, but yeah, I thought the ending was really good. Spoilers for those of you that want to know how I feel about the ending and about like how this book wraps up. If you want to read it and not be spoiled, stop now. There's your warning. The ending, where we find out that Dune, the reason he's so well respected and well regarded, is he interacted with a human colony ship that kind of not crash landed, but it was way out beyond where human beings normally have gone in the solar system or in the universe, and the Shonunin come across them. Something catastrophic had happened on the ship. There was only one person left. I think I'm remembering this correctly. I just finished it, so I should know. But I read the last like 60 pages in one sitting, so I feel like it was a little bit of a blur. Um, but he interacts with this one human being who ends up dying, and I think he kind of saves potentially people know him because he like sort of saved their race a little bit. He protected them from this threat that was happening, or perceived threat, and they go and find the DNA of this human, and they essentially recreate him in the form of Dune. And so we have, or in Thorn, sorry. So we have Thorn literally raising the person, at least the person's DNA, into a human who he killed. And I found that so moving at the end. I thought that was a great twist. I thought that the fact that Dune had to kind of like reckon with that uh, was very powerful, and it really did a very good job of like framing the rest of the book. We go through this whole story seeing Dune as kind of this like harsh teacher. He's rough on Thorn. He's kind of mean sometimes, but like just toes that line of like parenting style where you're like, I don't know, that's kind of mean. He's a kid. Maybe you should chill out on him. And he's very firm with him. And it frames a lot of that kind of stuff up where you realize like he's raising not only an alien. Um, he talks about literally like holding him and just feeling kind of this like weight of like, I'm holding an alien. Like it's like kind of revolting to him a little bit, but he raises it as his own and loves Thorn as his own. And I is a is a very beautiful is a very beautiful way to kind of encapsulate that relationship with something that is foreign to us. Um, our relationship with something that we don't understand. I think that was kind of the what I walked away with when I finished it. Um, there were moments in this book where I just kind of was like trying to not get through it, but that I was just kind of I was just really curious to see what all this was leading towards, and I will say the payoff was very much worth it. I thought the ending was very well done. I thought Cherryh was smart. Her writing was clearly very smart, and the plot and the pacing was smart. It slowly ramps up, and when it hits the high point at the end, and we got all this action and we got all this truth coming out, it does a great job of giving you a payoff that you feel you deserved after reading. And so, yes, that is Cuckoo's Egg by CJ Cherryh. Go pick it up if you can find it. Go pick up more of her work. I think she's a very great writer, and I think that she should be read more. Just on this one book alone, I'm gonna probably read more of her work. I'm trying to think of what else I have in there. Maybe something called the Dreamstone, I think, is ringing a bell. Down Below Station. Um, and I've passed on some of those Chanur, however you pronounce that. Passed on those that I've seen at thrift shops. But let me know in the comments if you've read Cherryh and what you think of her and her work. Tell me what I should read by her next. But yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for, again, just continuing to follow along with this sci-fi journey that we're on, where we're just discussing these old, somewhat forgotten books, and we're kind of just bringing them back to life and reminding people that there is great work in science fiction, vintage science fiction. So yeah, thanks for being here. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.